thatmovieguyUK.
2018 is the year that Paul Dano has made his directorial debut. He has been one of the most diverse actors for quite some time, from films of being of the Prisoners variety to There Will Be Blood variety. He is a phenomenal and powerhouse of an actor. And honestly, I was rather content with finding out this because I think that he does have artistic vision. He has actually gone to film school. It's based on a book by Richard Ford, and I must say I have been following the story of Wildlife since January. It did so well at Sundance, it did so well at Cannes, and finally it's at UK cinemas this very Friday. Wildlife is the story of Joe. He's a 14-year-old boy living in 1960s Montana. His father Jerry has recently lost his job, and his mother Jeanette is basically now having to get a part-time job teaching people how to swim. During this time, Jerry has a very tepid time trying to find work, and he eventually gets employment taking forest fires out in the mountains of Montana. This is a high-risk job, and Jeanette is not happy with it. This spirals into a very grandiose argument between the two of them, witnessed by Joe, and now Jeanette is going on a journey of not necessarily self-discovery, but she goes on a journey where she is trying to find more about herself, but it becomes reckless and very tormenting for her, and we see this story through the eyes of Joe. Paul Dano, you, my friend, can make a film anytime you want, and you can act anytime you want, because Wildlife is a very slow and poetically tragic film. He really is trying to push the message of family. Family doesn't necessarily mean that we love each other. We can be distant, we can not really be anything, but we are always connected through blood. And this is really the main focal point of Wildlife. We see Joe and we see ourselves, because when we're younger, we actually go through arguments from our parents. We see arguments between uncles and aunties, siblings, and it's very painful. I obviously have mentioned this in my channel before, but I have come from a family where my parents actually divorced, and I could resonate a lot with Joe. Seeing Wildlife through the eyes of Joe is the main component for me. I think that the still portraits of him just looking at what is going on in the world, it is very naive, it's very depressing, it is very tragic. And Ed Oxenbould has really given a very strong performance here. He doesn't really show much, he doesn't really show much feeling. There are some segments where he does, but most of the time he's just gazing into what is going on. Life is not all sugar-coated, and Joe is really having the brunt end of this at this current point in his life. And I just couldn't believe sometimes the things he was witnessing even. Paul Dano and Zoe Kazan have co-wrote this screenplay. Obviously they are partners in real life, and honestly I think that Dano's eye, along with Kazan's writing, because Kazan is the professional writer out of the two of them, it really is a very well-polished screenplay. You can feel and sense the emotions from the paper to the screen, and it really is a very powerful duo of a team here, and I do hope they collaborate again. And I think that the help of their friends then being Jake Gyllenhaal and Carey Mulligan, because they're all friends in real life, it just gives that gravitas that Wildlife required. Carey Mulligan is the best thing about Wildlife, bar this being Paul Dano's directorial debut. Sorry, Paul. But Carey Mulligan has given probably her best performance, and I know everybody has said this, but wow, she is insanely good. What grabbed me the most with it is that you can sense her pain, you can sense her confusion a lot just purely from facial expression. And Mulligan does this so well in a lot of films, but in Wildlife, I felt like she connected a lot more with her character this time. And purely by body language and facial expression alone, she steals the show. But the the scenes when she's drunk, the scenes when she's yelling at Gyllenhaal, it is so raw, so powerful. You just can't believe it. Along with Mulligan, Gyllenhaal does give a good performance. And I must say, he's not very utilised, and obviously he's not in the film as much. But I think for what he provides and the connection that he had with Mulligan and the connection that he had with Ed Oxenbould, I think that it became a very real family. It felt a lot more genuine. It's not all puppy dogs and rainbows and wildlife. It really is this is life, and this is how people can affect each other, and this is how pent-up frustrations and emotions can implode into something far worse and break up a family. The final scene was harrowing. I couldn't believe what I was watching, because it kind of reminded me of a scenario with my parents and trying to get a photograph at my graduation. It was so awkward, and it's that scene at the end took me back. The picture that you see in the poster, that is the actual sequence that you see at the end, and that is the thing that wildlife did for me. It just took me back to a part of my life where, in some way, I've repressed it in my subconscious, but it's always like floated back every now and again. And Paul Dano has just created something that I truly will not forget, and I don't think I've been that moved in a film for quite some time. My written review will be on my website, www.thatmovieguyuk.wordpress.com, and all my details are below. I will be back with a few more reviews before I go to Paris. But exciting news, we are going to see High Life, and we are going to see The House That Jack Built, 2 of my most anticipated films of this year, and I cannot wait. And obviously I'm excited for a break, because I need a break. And obviously, as we say on this channel, Deo danke, obrigado, merci beaucoup, arigato, dankeschön, bitteschön, all the shits. And obviously, never change.